There are places where reality feels thin, not because of creaky boards or cold drafts, but because pain soaked into the walls so long ago that it never really dried. Welcome to True Haunt Lore. If you want more documented accounts like this, subscribe right now and turn on the notification bell to join the archive. Tonight's file takes us to a hulking brick institution in rural New York, a place that wore too many names to hide what it really was. The County Poor Farm, the infirmary, the asylum. For over a century, the unwanted were brought here and stacked together like problems somebody else had to solve. It opened in January of 1827. County records make the logic sound clean. If you could not support yourself, you were housed, fed, put to work. But the trade was simple. Your freedom for a bowl of thin food and a bed you did not choose. And the worst part was who got thrown together. Picture a crying child in a dormitory, 3 feet from a violent criminal. Picture a confused elder drifting down the same hall as someone coughing up their last breath. No separation, no mercy, just one long pressure cooker of fear, sickness, and restraint. Some parapsychologists point to the stone tape theory, the idea that intense emotion can leave a kind of imprint in stone and brick. Whether you buy that or not, this place had more than enough to record. Decades of sobbing, decades of panic, decades of people realizing nobody was coming back for them. Investigators today talk about the East Wing first. That is where the shadow figures show up, except here, they are not quick tricks of the eye. Witness statements describe something tall, solid, blacker than the darkness behind it. Not just watching, moving, leaning from corners, and sometimes charging down the hall like it owns the building. There is a stretch upstairs people call the shadow hallway. The air feels thick, like walking through water. Your chest tightens, your pulse spikes. You suddenly want out right now. Skeptics mention infrasound, drafts, and stress. Others point to mold and spores that can mess with the nervous system. Those explanations cover some things. They do not cover the scratches. Over and over, visitors leave that corridor with 3 long welts, often on the neck or upper back, places they cannot easily reach. The pattern repeats so consistently that it stops being maybe. It becomes a question with teeth. Not every presence here feels like an attack, though. One of the most talked about residents is a gentle giant who died in 1942. County history describes a man unusually tall, likely shaped by a medical condition, abandoned young, and kept inside these walls for life. In his old room, people report a sudden reek of stale tobacco and unwashed clothes. No smoking allowed, no source, just a smell that arrives like someone stepped back into the room, then stepped out again. Audio recorders sometimes capture a low confirmation when investigators ask if anyone is there. Not a clear conversation, more like a heavy presence pressing close to the microphone, letting you know you are not alone. Then you go downstairs, and the tone changes. The basement areas, where the most unstable and the most punished were kept, feel like a trap closing. Many teams report an instant temperature drop 10 to 15 degrees Fahrenheit in seconds. The rooms are tighter, the doors heavier, the silence thicker. Historical care for mental illness in the 1800s could look like cruelty with paperwork, restraints, isolation, cold water, treatments, windowless cells meant to break a person down until they stopped being inconvenient. There is one small room with a bitter nickname, the Christmas Room. Old employee stories describe a nurse who worked that area, remembered as harsh, maybe worse. Today, that room is tied to aggressive incidents, hair yanked, pressure on the throat, the sense of hands that are not there. One team reported a heavy metal door slamming shut and locking while they were inside. When they forced it open, the corridor was empty. No footsteps running away, no laughter, just that awful quiet, like the building was listening. And sometimes the building does not stay quiet. From deep in the basement, people hear anguished cries, sounds too human to dismiss as settling pipes. In 2010, a recording captured a breathless whisper right into the device. "Help me, it hurts." Clear enough to raise hair on the back of your neck. Outside, the property holds another weight. Records indicate more than 1,700 deaths tied to this institution. Many were buried without markers, just numbered stakes matched to a ledger. Time erased the numbers. The ground swallowed the metal. Trees pushed roots through forgotten rows. So you walk the land, and you are walking above people who were filed away as nothing. That kind of disrespect has consequences in a lot of traditions, not superstition pattern. When the dead are denied identity, the living tend to feel watched where the names went missing. Even decades after closure, reports stayed consistent. Footsteps behind a lone worker, doors that would not stay shut, lights that refused to stay off. A delivery driver once described seeing a nurse in white at a second-story window, staring down without moving. He waved, no response. Then he noticed the window was sealed and webbed over. When he looked back, she was gone. He left the package and never returned. Some investigators try simple experiments with a flashlight set to barely off, asking for a touch to complete the circuit. At this location, the timing can feel uncomfortably smart flickers that answer, pauses that refuse, rapid strobing when the questions turn angry. And then there are the children. Records show orphans passed through these halls, some sent out for labor, others lost to disease inside. In one wing, people leave toys, not as props, as offerings. Teams have watched a ball roll across dusty floorboards with no visible push. Others report the brief sensation of tiny fingers curling into theirs, then fading like breath in winter air. Deeper still are the solitary cells, stone, dark, and designed for sensory deprivation. In that space, witnesses report a low, skittering shape, the crawler. Not tall like the hallway shadow, low, spider-like, moving wrong, hugging the edges of sight. One police report from the late 1990s mentions teenagers who broke in, called 911, and were found hysterical in the lobby. One boy went silent, vacant, and had to be hospitalized. Officers noted strange drag marks in basement dust that did not match any clear footprints. Here is what makes this file hard to shake. You can argue drafts, mold, fear, suggestion. Sometimes you will be right. But this place is not just haunted. It is an archive built from human misery, recorded in brick, repeated in footsteps, and answered in rooms that still feel occupied. So if you ever pass a lonely brick silhouette on a rural road at night, do not stop. Do not test it. Do not mock it, because some buildings do not forget what they were built to do. This has been a file from True Haunt Lore. If you felt the air change while listening, like the room got a little quieter, You understand why we keep records. Like the video, subscribe, and share your own documented encounters in the comments, so the archive keeps growing.
So after navigating the absolute sorrow and chaos we just explored, the forgotten souls of the poor farm, the unmarked graves, and the towering shadow people stalking those long hallways, you're probably wondering, what exactly is the vibe at the Rolling Hills Asylum today? Well, my personal take on this massive New York compound right now is all about its breathtaking, deceptive charm. If you drive out to the quiet, rolling countryside of East Bethany today, expecting to find a terrifying, rotting Hollywood-style asylum, you will be completely caught off guard. During the daylight hours, this sprawling, historic brick complex actually possesses a remarkably serene and peaceful aesthetic. Surrounded by lush green fields, towering trees, and classic rural farmland, it feels surprisingly cozy. Bathed in the warm afternoon sun, the property genuinely looks like a bright, picturesque Thomas Kincaid-style painting of a historic, rustic country estate. Today, it operates as a meticulously preserved historical site, welcoming visitors who want to step back in time. But honestly, from my perspective, that picture-perfect exterior is exactly what makes the reality of Rolling Hills so deeply unsettling. The contrast is just jarring, because while it looks like a serene rural retreat by day, the tragic history baked into those very brick walls refuses to rest. You can be admiring the vintage architecture from the sunlit lawn, but the moment you step inside those freezing, pitch-black corridors or walk past the old morgue, that suffocating dread rushes right back in. The hundreds of forgotten outcasts buried in unmarked graves out back haven't moved on. They are just waiting in the shadows of the second floor. Rolling Hills proves that the most beautiful country landscapes can hide the darkest, most tragic secrets.